Hello and a very warm welcome back to Fox's Weight Watcher Kitchen. I'm Johnny Fox. Now guys, in today's recipe I want to cook something for you that I enjoy, you probably enjoy it as well, but we're going to put an adaptation like I usually do, a bit of a spin on a traditional recipe, spaghetti bolognese. Ingredients I'm going to be using turkey mince. To spice things up, we're going to be using a spoonful of oregano and a spoonful of basil. Sorry Americans, it's oregano. Also we're going to be using a little bit of, I use rock salt for mine because the flavours are more intensified. We're going to be also using a tin of chopped tomatoes. We're going to be using a couple of large garlic cloves and a tennis ball size onion. But how do I change my recipes up? I was talking to one of my clients the other day and she said, when you're doing your recipes, how do you know how to change things? Take a look at this for a second. As you can see, I use a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. And what I normally do is the ingredients that I'd usually use, I keep them on the left hand side first. So you can see I normally buy the red mint, which is the 5% fat one because there's no gristle in it. I don't know about you guys, I don't like gristle and chewy bits in my meat. That, if you're with Weight Watchers and you're point counting, would have equated to 10 points. Tin tomatoes and onion and garlic and all the other flavourings is basically a 0 point. So we're going to use exactly the same as those in this recipe as well. For cooking it, we're going to need a little bit of olive oil because there's no fat in the turkey mince that we're going to be using, not enough to do the onion and garlic. But then normally you would put spaghetti. If you're using 150 grams, which is a 2-person serving, and splitting that down, that would equate to 15 points. So you can see on the bottom of there, that's equating to a 29-point dinner divided by 2 people, so 14.5 points each. So what I do is, if you look at the yellow column now, the turkey mince is going to substitute the best mint, which is only 5% fat, but that now is 0 points. When we come down to the olive oil, that's exactly the same. And because we're going to be using veggie spaghetti, for this one I'm going to be using some courgette. I know the Americans call it zucchini, but here in the UK we call it a courgette. We're going to be using that as our spaghetti to put that up at the end. So let's start chopping some of these things up, get this on the go. Let's get the pan up and running, get that nice and warm. And then we're going to get our olive oil. Let's get our teaspoon measure because we want to do this right for you guys to show you. So normal extra virgin olive oil. And just to get the pan up, what we need for this recipe is just 2. That's all we need. If you go heavier, obviously, I mean, some people say you need to put quite a bit more in there. Quite honestly, you don't. To cook onion and garlic, you only need a couple of teaspoonsful, which will equate to 4 points. So we'll quickly slice these up and get this on the stove, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so all chopped up. We've been on the pan now. I've left them in the pan for about 2 to 3 minutes. Just going to start adding in some other ingredients now as well. The turkey mince. As you can see, just a whole packet. I normally just leave mine in and break it up slightly, just a little bit. Onions and garlic, all we're trying to do at this point is just get them down to lightly caramelise before we put the meat in, because normally when you're cooking red meat it takes a lot longer to cook. White meat always is a lot quicker to cook, and as you can see it starts turning white really quick on these. But there's a little trick when you're using mince. I don't know about you guys, if you're trying to cook mince, have you ever tried breaking it up? You can see from this one we still got quite a few chunky bits. I always use my potato masher. This is the one that looks like a set of fingers, and all I do is just get mine over the top and just give it a bit of a mash whilst it's in the pan. It breaks it up a lot quicker, incorporates all the onion and garlic flavour into the turkey mince at the same time. So all we do is just keep fiddling around in the pan until that's all mixed up, and then we can start adding some other ingredients in a while. Alright, leave that on the stove for a little bit longer. Let's get the blade out so we don't waste any of the meat. And as you can see guys, it doesn't really take that long to start getting a dinner to come together, especially this one. Nice bit of spaghetti bolognese. It is one of my favourites. It's probably one of yours as well. But like I say, when you're cooking it with red meat, your typical beef mince, even if it's only the 5% one, which is the best grade mince you can get, you're still getting a lot of fat content. As you can see from this one, the only fat that we've got in there, or oil, is that little bit of extra virgin olive oil that we put in there. It's only worth 4 points. So we just leave this to carry on cooking up for a little bit longer. until it gets a little bit white. Usually takes about 5 minutes to get this to come together quite nicely, and then we start adding in all the other ingredients as well. So we give this a bit of a flick over just to help it cook a bit quicker. Always find it, if I'm pushing it down into the bottom of the, as you notice, I cook a lot of my things in the wok because there's a, and when you think the amount of ingredients that go into this, you can, if you want to, if you want to spread this longer, if you've got a larger family, instead of just using 1 tin of tomatoes, you can always double it up and use a couple of tins. You can see there's quite a lot of meat in there. 500 grams is a good portion of meat. Just give that another couple of minutes, and then we'll start adding in some other ingredients. So back again in a sec. Okay, so we've been on the stove now for about another further 3 minutes. As you can see, it's nice and white now. This is where we start adding in some of the other ingredients. And like I say, guys, if you want to, you can. It's only purely because I like my spaghetti bolognese nice and meaty rather than very juicy. You can see the tomato is enough to cover over all of this meat. And a lot of people say, cool, you use a lot of meat, don't you? You can, like I say, if you're using this for family. And guys, sometimes when I'm doing a batch of this, and like I say, I've got a big 11-litre pot, if I'm using 2 or 3 packets of mince, I'll probably use about 7.5 to 8 kilos of tomatoes. So it makes it a really good dinner. And then what I do afterwards, put them into the freezer in those little Tupperware containers that I've shown you before. So ingredients again, we've got some oregano, or oregano for the Americans, 1 tablespoonful of salt, 1 tablespoonful of basil. Move those to one side, and all we do at this point is just stir this together. Some people say you can always add the tomato puree to this at the same time as well. With this dinner that I'm doing, guys, it's like any dinners. It doesn't matter what way I cook it. This is just a recipe that I particularly like. If you want to adapt it and add more tomatoes in there, you can do it. If you want to add tomato puree, some people have used bouquet garnis, some people are using bay leaves in there as well. All I'm doing at this point, you can see there's quite a lot of juice in there for what I need, and all we do at this point, now we've got it all stirred up together, we just leave this on the stove with a lid on a nice slow simmer, because the turkey mince is basically cooked at this point. We want to infuse all those other spices and flavors into it, and the salt as well. Going to turn that down nice and low and let that simmer for a while. Usually leave this for about 20 minutes, but while that's cooking down nice and low, I want to show you something else. With the vegetables that I use, I'm going to be using courgette, as you know, or the Americans call it zucchini. If I take the lid off, you can see this is basically going to be my pasta. This is a whole courgette in there, and all I've done, you can buy these little spiralizer things anywhere you like. You might get a rotary one as well. I don't quite know what they're called. You can get some that go onto food processors at the same time as well. And all I do is take the courgette, put it into the top, and you can see from the underside all of that coming out from underneath. And because I know I don't want to go too mad with this, it's purely to show you. It looks basically like sharpening a pencil. When you used to be at school and you used to get the pencil sharpened and give it a twist. There are electronic gadgets, there are windy gadgets you can use to do the same thing. You can even use, them potato peelers, the julienne ones as well. You can use that, or if you've got a knife or a potato peeler. I've seen people doing these down into potato peel slices, then getting a knife and slicing them all down. Personally, because I've got this device, I will use it. But as you can see, there is all my lovely courgette all ready. So we're going to leave this on the stove for about 20 minutes, and then I'm going to come back and show you, because the cooking, normally with pasta, you would leave it on the stove for anywhere between 10 to 15 minutes, depending on how hard or soft you like your pasta. This will only take about 3 to 4 minutes to cook. So once this is ready, I'll start cooking this and show you how to do it, because normally when you see these adverts for these spiralizer machines, they always say you can use the zucchini in this, or butternut squash, or carrots, but they never show you how to cook it. So we'll be back in a while once this has simmered down for about 15-20 minutes, and then I'll show you how we're going to whip up this and make it nice and warm. So back again in a while. Okay, so everything's been simmering down on the stove for the last 15 minutes. It's getting nice and dry underneath there. Again, it's a personal preference. It's the way that I like mine. All I've got left now is the final 5 minutes, so I'm going to start getting the courgettes cooked up as well. First thing I'm going to do is get, again, some extra virgin olive oil. But all I'm going to use for this, because we don't need much, you can do this as a dry fry if you prefer. Personally, I just like to add that little bit of extra virgin olive oil in there, again, just for taste. And then what I do with mine, swish it around the pan. Now, to flavour this up, lots of different people use different things. I always put my salt in there, so roughly a half a teaspoonful of salt, and I put mine in with the oil. And another thing that I use is onion powder, because I like the taste. Again, it's a personal preference. Half a teaspoonful of onion powder, and I always put mine into the oil purely to flavour up the oil first. And as you can see, there's not much in there, and all this will do is just bring all of these ingredients together, and then we just take the courgette and put that in the pan. Get the heat up nice and high, because this will only take about 2 to 3 minutes. It doesn't take long to cook these. I should have had the pan a little bit hotter for this to start with. And all we do is wiggle it around in the pan. It does not take long, just to get all these lovely flavours mixed in with the courgette, or if you're an American, zucchini. I think they've got their own name for it as well when they're doing these zucchini noodles. I think they call them zoodles over there. Again, not really something we do over in the UK. We've got so many different names for things. But again, you can see, don't want to waste that bit as well. It tastes so nice. This, just the smell of this now, because I'm using a little bit of onion powder, and again, guys, this is all personal preference. This is the way I like mine. I've been cooking this for probably a good 18 months to nearly 2 years now. And again, it's one of those weight loss dinners that tastes so much better. Just leave that to cook up for a little bit longer. I'm going to get the plate ready, because it will not take long, and I've got a set of tongs somewhere. There's my tongs over there, because what we don't want to do is burn ourselves. And you can see they're getting lovely and hot already, and you've got that lovely flavour from the onion powder, a little bit of seasoning. You can add things like cracked pepper in there if you want to, the black peppers, a little bit of cayenne pepper if you want it hot and spicy as well. Again, to me, it's more of an Italian dish than anything else, so you don't really want to do too many of the hot and spicy ones. But again, you can see they start reducing down really fast. Once you get the heat up, you can see the heat is on full blast here. All we do is start getting these, and you can see there's lots of fluid in this as well. Doesn't take that long to cook these down, usually just a few minutes. I like to keep them just wiggling around the pan, just to make sure that all those flavours from the oil, the salt, and that the onion powder as well, because I find that's got a lovely little zang to it. And another little trick as well, because there's still going to be quite a lot of moisture, I always have a bowl and a sieve ready. Because you can see, just in the bottom of the pan here, there's still quite a lot of moisture. And again, like I say, they don't take that long to cook. It looks like they're almost there already, starting to clump together. That's what I was finding. If they clump together and start to want to stick, then I know they are almost ready. But you can see, much quicker than your traditional pasta. But taste-wise, this is going to be absolutely delicious. And that looks like that is almost there. I'm going to turn that off already. And then just strain these into a sieve. You'll see underside in a minute there's going to be quite a lot of moisture coming out of this, because I find if you leave it on, go straight onto the plate with this, all of that fluid in the bottom goes swishing around the plate. And I don't know about you, but I don't really like my dinners too wet. You can see from the meat consistency in a while when I put that on the top that is going to be a little bit too wet. You can see the amount of moisture that's come out in the bottom there, and all I do is just strain them down a little bit. Sometimes you can just get the spoon and give it a bit of a helping hand, a little bit of a squash, and then we are ready to serve up the lovely veggie spaghetti. Nice little bit of zucchini. So there's all the courgettes all together, spread that out, and then the other pan can go off. And this one, I know I've said that we normally do this for 2 people. You can see there is an awful lot of meat in there. Depends on how hungry you are. And then all you got to do is give yourself a couple of spoonfuls of the meat. And you can see that is an absolutely delicious dinner. Now I know what you're thinking when you go to the Italian restaurants, you always get the waiter come over. Sir, would you like a bit of Parmesan cheese on the top? It's one of those things that if you like the cheesy flavour on the top, that's fine. If you want to put the Parmesan cheese on the top and get the extra points, you can put that on as well. Here's another little trick that I use. I get this, what's this one called? Engevita, which is basically one of those yeast flakes that you can buy. And all I do on mine is throw about half a spoonful of yeast flakes over the top. Looks pretty much the same as Parmesan cheese when you're putting it on. Again, 0 calories, 0 points if you're with Weight Watchers. Just that cheesy smell. I can smell the cheesy flavour from the active yeast already. And then we just get our little fork. And because I know you guys are watching and you really want to see me eat something, because I know you love to watch me eat my food. Oh, guys. That is absolutely delicious. Lovely cheesy flavour on the top from the yeast. We got the turkey mince. I don't know about you, but when you use red meats and you're using traditional mince, I've never been a lover of gristly, chewy bits of meat. It's just the way I was growing up. With the turkey breast, you would never get a gristly bite. With the veggie spaghetti, you can see underneath there, the flavour of that. I'm going to go that again, hang on. Oh, just that. Just noodles, you can call it as well if you want to, but for this one, because it's traditionally a pasta dish, we're going to call it spaghetti this time. So a veggie spaghetti. You can even use, if you want, butternut squash. I've tried it, or the Americans call it a squash. Use the same thing, give it a twist down, turn it into your veggie spaghetti. Will take slightly longer in the pan. This one's very moist. The veggie spaghetti I tend to find takes about 5 or 6 minutes, and what I cheat on that one, I usually just soak it in a bit of water first and then take it to the pan, and again put it in a bit of onion powder, sometimes a bit of garlic paste, but it depends on how you want to flavour things up. But guys, I'm going to go and eat my lunch. Hopefully you've enjoyed the recipe. If you've got any comments, try the recipe, leave the comments in below. If you do like the channel, click on the subscribe button, and if you click on the bell, you'll be notified of other recipes coming up as well. Till we do it again, have yourselves a great week. Catch you on the flip side. Bye.